All right, so welcome everyone to day 2 of the Unblock Your Psychic Third Eye Challenge. We're on day 2, and today we're going to be covering the 3 hidden energies blocking your gifts now. All right, so before we get started, I just want to check in with everyone. How has it been since yesterday? Have you been practicing your grounding? I just type in the word grounding if you've been practicing, and even if you haven't, I know some of you couldn't make it yesterday. That's okay. We're going to do a mini review, just a real quick review to catch everyone up. But yeah, I'd love to see how everyone's energy is doing. Is your energy doing great today, or is your energy heavy today? I know some people have had some energy challenges lately. So yeah, I see the word grounding. Melissa says, I wasn't able to join yesterday. Will there be a replay? Yes, there's a replay. And I send out an email right after the broadcast. I send out an email and I give you a link to the replay, and you could catch it on YouTube or you could catch it in the Facebook group. Okay. So yeah, a lot of people have been grounding. Ember says just a little bit up and down, a little headaches. Sally grounded with the trees today. Okay, awesome. Challenging day today. All right. Yeah, well, guess what? When you have challenging days with your energy, this grounding technique that you learned and that we're going to review here in a few minutes is perfect for that. Okay, it's not just for energy work. It's not just for psychic work. It's very helpful in your everyday life. All right. So, all right. And Cindy says, been a challenging few days. Kathy had a dream last night, read a book, and a dream said, I have that book, good energy. Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, I was just kind of buying time here to get people to find the broadcast. Hey, Vanessa, good to see you again. All right. Okay. So what we're going to do is, before we get into the lecture for tonight, and tonight we're going to talk about the 3 hidden energies blocking your gifts now. I want to tell you all a quick story of a reading I did today, actually. And so I invite you, as I'm telling the story, to gently close your eyes. Okay. Just take a moment to close your eyes. And while I'm telling the story, I encourage you to breathe. And just like I taught yesterday, one of the things that's really important before doing any kind of energy work is you want to relax the body first. Okay. So while you're just sitting there breathing and breathing really deeply, inhaling and exhaling, just really, really nice and deep, just slow, methodical, and relaxed breathing. I'm going to tell a quick story. And like I said, I had a new client today. I've never worked with her before. And what's funny is, I've been doing this for many years. And even though I've been reading for many years, doing readings, healings, I still get nervous. Okay. Even though I've been reading and helping people, I still get nervous, especially if it's a new client, right? Because there's that expectation. Will they get it? Will they understand? Will they, think I'm a phony, right? Because that's what's prevalent in this industry, is that you don't know what psychic to believe out there. So before I did my session today, like 10 minutes, 10, 20 minutes beforehand, I did what you all are doing now, which I'm encouraging you to do now if you're just joining, and that is to breathe. All right, so I took a nice inhale, and then I took a nice relaxing exhale. And one of the great things about breathing is that it's like its own natural way to release and let go. So as you inhale, just imagine you could breathe in your life force energy. And then when you exhale, imagine that you could just release and let go of your day. Some of you said that you're having a tricky day today or a challenging day. So just continue to breathe and I'll continue with my story. And just like what you learned yesterday, what I taught yesterday was you always want to honor the body first. And I'm talking about your physical body. So what better way to honor that than by breathing? And then when my body was more relaxed, right? Then that's when I hopped on the call. It was actually, all my readings are via Zoom now. So I just hopped on Zoom. And, I got introduced, got acquainted with this new client. And, without getting into too much detail, right? She was kind of lost and she was feeling a lot of pain in her body. And from there, it had her feeling stuck, right? So I looked at her energy and I started off by giving her a hello as a spirit, because the way I read, I believe that we are all spirits in a body, and the body just happens to be our vehicle for this lifetime. So continue to breathe into your vehicle, your body, for your spirit, your soul. Right, so there I was just giving a hello to her as a soul in this reading that I gave today. And when I looked at her aura and her chakras, I just saw a lot of like this white energy. There's almost like a silvery white. And, whenever I see white in anyone's aura like this, white contains every color of the rainbow and it contains all the energy you don't see. All right. So I communicated this to her. I was like, wow, I see all this white. It's silvery white. And it just looks like the energy of pain, the pain that you're dealing with in your body. And I told her, I said, the way this energy comes across, it looks like you just don't want to be there. You just don't want to be there in your body. And it was interesting because I was giving her this communication. However, I got the sense that like she heard my words, but she wasn't actually getting the communication. So it's like she was hearing me, but she wasn't hearing me. So guess what? Before I continued working with her, I had her breathe. I was like, hey, go ahead and take a nice, deep, cleansing breath. Right. And as she was breathing, I was looking at her energy clairvoyantly as she was breathing. And I just asked her, I was like, wow, when was the last time you actually took a nice, deep breath? Because instantly, as she took that deep breath, it's like her energy shifted. It changed almost instantly. And she responded, she goes, oh, it's been a while. I was like, oh, I could tell. I could tell by just looking at your energy, your body, and even her facial expressions. Like she was in a lot of tension and then she started to relax. Her face even started to relax. And so I had her continue to breathe, and I encourage you to continue to breathe as I'm telling the story. Like I said, you want to relax the body before doing any kind of energy work first. And as she continued to breathe, this new client of mine, she started to cough, right? It's almost like she started to cough uncontrollably. And I asked her, just continue to breathe the best you can. And I asked her if as she continued to breathe, if I could just do some energy work on her, do some healing work. And it's the healing work that I teach in level 2 of my program around healing mastery, like I introduced yesterday. And we'll cover a little bit just as more of a reminder here in a minute. And, you always want to ask permission when you give people healing work, right? It's like, hey, may I give you a healing? And she said yes. And so I had her continue to breathe. And I did the healing work on her to help her release and let go of all that white and that silver energy that was basically keeping her out of her body. right? So I encourage you as you are breathing, just notice any stuck energies in your space that as you exhale, you could let all that go. And you might see it as white energies like with my client, or you might sense or feel it as maybe some heavy energies. They might show up as darker versions of any colors or faded versions of any colors. And so there I was having her breathe and relax. And moments later, she stopped coughing, right? She was coughing, she said, for like a week straight, and she just stopped coughing. And sure, some of it was the healing work that I did for her, but a big part of it was just the breathing, right? So just notice for yourself for breathing. Like I've been on here online now for about 8 minutes. And one thing I pointed out to her was like, wow, society, society just doesn't breathe anymore, right? So once you get to this breathing, like, and when my client got nice and relaxed, then she could hear me. I was like, wow, okay, so let's now continue with the session. And likewise for you, now that you're more relaxed, your body's more relaxed, then it's time to do some energy work. So while you're still in meditation, let's go ahead and review what you learned yesterday, and that was around grounding. Now, why do we ground? Well, one is to help the body feel nice and connected so it doesn't feel too floaty. And it's also to help the body relax, while at the same time, giving your body somewhere to release and let go of this foreign energy, stuck energies in your space. So you could begin to imagine a green ball of energy. And we use green because green is familiar, just like in nature. And imagine this green ball of energy just surrounding the base of your spine, your hips. And imagine that gravity can take hold and that this green ball of energy just drops, kind of like an elevator going down. And it just drops, just goes down, 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 all the way down to the center of the planet. And once it gets to the center of the planet, it connects your body, helps it feel rooted, safe, anchored. And you could imagine as well that it's a hollow tube of energy, so that if there is any stuck energy in your body, your aura, your chakras, imagine that those also have weight now. And you might see them as maybe mini purple dots in your heart, or sludgy energy in your legs, or however they seem to show up for you in this moment. And don't worry if you can't see them very clearly, you just might get a flash of them, or you might get something in your mind's eye, or you just might get the feel for it just for now, and that's fine. But just like imagining dropping a brick, a heavy brick down into a deep well, imagine that all this energy now falling out of your space that doesn't belong there. Energy that's not yours, not in present time. Any stuck energies. Now they have somewhere to go. And just like a kid going down a slide in a playground, imagine that as more and more of your energy releases, just slides away. Then you could validate the sense of just letting go, feeling lighter as a result in the process. And go ahead and allow yourself to release even more. And you never want to force anything. You're going to release and let go whatever it is you're ready to release and let go of. All right. And then once you get a nice sense of movement, things are shifting, clearing, go ahead and now, about 3 feet up above your head, imagine a bright golden sun, a nice big golden ball of energy. And you could imagine that you could write your name in magnetic ink and notice your handwriting in there. Is it in cursive, block letters? And the reason for writing your name in magnetic ink in the gold sun is to tune the gold sun to the energy that's unique to you and only you in the whole entire universe, so that it will attract, it will call back your unique vibration, your unique energy. And it's like gathering pieces of you you've left behind on your awakening journey. And you might notice your energy coming back from other people, places, work, projects you're working on. Just let your energy come up to a nice high gold, present time vibration. And you might see the gold sun get larger and larger as more and more of your energy comes back. And when that gold sun's all nice and full, go ahead and now just allow it to pour into your body through the top of your head. Kind of like when you pour glass or pour water into a glass, letting it fill up, and allow every single cell, all millions and millions of your cells, fill in with this golden light, as well as your aura, your energy field around you. Imagine it like a bubble around you, as if you're a golden light bulb of your own energy. And you can breathe that golden energy in, your energy. And when you're all filled up, replenished, you can then open your eyes, come on out of the trance, out of this meditation. All right, and welcome back. All right, so I'd love to know, how was this meditation for you, this grounding golden sun? And the way that I taught it was basically in meditation, right? Just to review what we did, and basically the steps is you relax the body first, then you form your grounding cord, right? Just visualize it from the base of your spine all the way down to the center of the planet. Then you kind of scan your space for any stuck energies, foreign energies. You release and let that go, okay? And in the process, you start to feel lighter, more relaxed, right? And it's this relaxed state that you want to be in before doing any kind of energy work, especially before tapping into your psychic third eye, okay? When you release and let go, you never want to just leave it empty, though. You never want to leave your space because you don't want anything coming in. So what you did next was you created that gold sun, right? Imagine that the gravitational pull, the gold sun, just calls all your energy back from your day, from your week, from people, places, projects, right? And then when that gold sun's all nice and full, allow it to fill you in, fill in your body, your cells, your aura, your chakras, your energy channels. And that way, when you're full of your own energy, right, that's being clear, right? So if you're going to be filled in with any energy, it may as well be yours. All right, so let me read some comments here. Vicky said, I love this meditation, started dozing off, LOL. Nettie said, good. All right, love it, says Cindy. And my apologies if I skip over your comment. They're coming in very quickly. All right. And then on Facebook, Melissa says, gold sun pouring into me, felt as if I was under a waterfall, refreshing. Love the visual there. Michelle says, been practicing, still can't see stuck energy in my space, so I pretend. You know what? That's okay too, Michelle. And I love that you allow yourself to pretend, because on pre-training number 3, right? One thing, and if you haven't watched that, you saw it, it's all on YouTube. You can watch the replays. But one of the things I mentioned in pre-training number 3 was that when it comes to adult learners, right? Adult learners expect to like just get it, right? And if you don't get it, then it's like, forget it, it's not working, right? If you don't get it right away. But that's different from what a kid does. What a kid does is they might fall off the bike, right? They're trying to learn how to ride a bike, they fall, but they don't give up, right? They might cry, scrape their knee, right? But they get right back up and they allow themselves to play, right? So Michelle, to your point of pretending, right? That's what kids do. They pretend, they play. And then eventually it loosens up and then it becomes more and more real for you. Okay. All right. So everyone give yourself permission to play, right? That's what it's all about. Permission to play here. All right. And Justin saying, I don't know how to see energy. Great. That's what this challenge is all about. Okay. And especially by the time we get to day 4 of the challenge, which is 2 days from today, we're really going to get more in depth in that. But just for now, right, just begin to notice what you see, right? Because some people are just trying too hard, and we'll talk about that here in a moment. But yeah, just allow yourself to relax. That's what the goal is for today, from yesterday and today's. Relax first, okay? Then all the energy work, then the seeing of the energy, that will come naturally, right? So trust the process. All right, so thank you for all the feedback, everyone. So before we get into the lecture here, I want to quickly just review the slides that we covered yesterday, because I know some of you couldn't make it. You're here for the first time. And I just want to remind you, just to get the big picture of it all, of what we're doing, why we're doing this, and how the training is going to be delivered. So 1 second, let me share my screen real quick. Okay, so we're on day 2, everyone. And part of what we covered yesterday, let me do full screen here. Okay, part of what we covered yesterday was that this 5-day challenge is actually part of something bigger, right? It's the foundation for what I call the complete psychic framework. And when it comes to what I consider to be the complete psychic, right, it's 4 parts. The first part is where you learn how to attain reading mastery. And I'm talking about reading with their psychic third eye. And part of reading mastery, that's actually one of my more advanced training. And what you learn there is what's known as the third eye mastery method. Okay. This third eye mastery method, guess what? The Unlock Your Psychic Third Eye Challenge, you learn part of that method over these 5 days. Part of reading mastery as well is third eye activation, and then what I call crown chakra ascension. And all your crown chakra it's that place for your higher knowing, right? So when you could tap into your higher knowing along with your psychic third eye, that's when like you really take your psychic gifts to the next level. So that's why I really emphasize the third eye to start, and then the crown chakra stuff later. All right, part 2 of being a complete psychic is healing mastery, right? So here, being a great healer is when you could heal people, what I call karma free. A teacher taught me that back in the day, so I love to pass that on to my students. What it is to be karma free just means that you could heal without using your own life force energy, right? There's so many healers out there that are using their own energy to heal others. Guess what? They become depleted in the process. And when you become depleted, when you become tired as a healer, guess what? You're creating this karma with your healers, with the people that you're healing. Okay. So that's not good, because if you want to do this long term, if you want to be a great healer, and many of you, maybe you don't want to be a professional psychic or a healer, but maybe you just want to be that best friend, right? The helpful best friend that helps heal your friends and family. Well, you can't do that if you're using your life force energy. Okay. All right. And then part of healing mastery as well is when you heal yourself a little more deeply. So for those of you like feeling heavy, you're feeling blocked, like I saw in the comments earlier, you gain that when you could get the deeper self healing, you get more clear. And then the idea is after you start healing yourself, then you could become you can become a better healer for other people. Does that make sense so far? All right. And then part 3 is spirit communications masteries, where you could communicate with your spirit guides more effectively. And here, when you learn more advanced psychic boundaries, you learn what I call the language of spirit and channeling healing energies, right? That's yet part 3 of becoming a complete psychic. And then last but not least is manifesting mastery, to where you learn how to manifest what I call the psychic sway. And all this involves is, I call it hacking, right? Spiritual hacking of the spiritual anatomy of turning dreams into reality. It's one of my favorite things to teach. And when there's a magic to manifesting mastery, where when you start getting synchronicities, it feels like the things that you imagine, like they magically come to you. Okay, but it's like magic when it comes to this manifesting mastery. All right, so how is that? How does all this sound to you, this complete psychic framework, right? Does this sound really interesting to you? Just type in interesting, or like if it makes any sense at all, just let me know that it makes sense as well. All right, Robert says interesting, Vicky says interesting. Okay, awesome. Now, just to remind everyone, right, before we get into all this is what we're doing this week, right? The Unblock Your Psychic Third Eye Challenge. Now, as I mentioned yesterday, and even in the pre-training, full disclosure, right? The 5-day challenge is to introduce you to an 8-week program that I have coming up, which starts on March 9. Okay, I'll show you the slide here in a moment. And again, full disclosure, yes, there's an investment into the program, but the idea is like, I introduce you to me, the program, how I teach, my teaching style. And if you enjoy the 5 days, then I'd love to invite you into that 8-week program. Okay. All right. So if you are interested, by the way, interested in 8 weeks to Third Eye Reading Mastery, the Third Eye Accelerator group, the next group is forming now, and I'm going to introduce to you on Thursday. Oh, this group begins on March 9. And so stay tuned for Thursday on day 5, to where I'm going to be presenting you with a real special offer, a special deal for everyone who completes all 5 days. Okay. Now, how do I know that you're going to complete all 5 days? Well, oops. Okay, we'll get into that in just a second. Let me just remind you what we are covering all 5 days. An intro yesterday with the intro and how to instantly release blocks to your gifts. Day 2, how to identify the 3 hidden energies blocking your psychic third eye. That's what we're covering today. Tomorrow, how to prevent being invaded by foreign energies. We'll learn about psychic protection tomorrow. And then on day 4, overcoming the greatest myth about activating your psychic third eye. Okay. And what I'm going to be covering there is like what it's really like to be seeing through your third eye, right? And it's not what you think. Okay. So stay tuned for that. And then finally, for day 5, we'll talk about that 8-week program that I mentioned. And it's all about going beyond awakening to being able to heal with your gifts without the second guessing. And yesterday, we talked about how many of you have a higher calling, right, to do something with your gifts, right? So let me know if that's you, like you sense like there's something more, something greater, like you're born with these gifts for some reason. Maybe you don't know what to do with it yet, right? Because like you feel this calling, you want to help people, or maybe you want to be a messenger of some sort, but you just don't know how. Okay, so let me know if that's you. If so, that's what we're covering on day 5, right? Giving you that pathway, the step-by-step pathway to helping you get to that point so that you can fulfill that higher calling. All right, so many of you, Vicky says, I know I was born to be a healer. I've been called to action, higher calling, says Catherine. Okay, great. All right. All right, and then last slide, oops. Okay, each day is about an hour of content followed by Q&A. And then, just to incentivize you so that you do complete all 5 days, right? I have a special bonus for you. So complete all 5 days to qualify for a 1 in 5 chance at a 30-minute psychic reading or psychic healing session with me. And that's $150 value. That's a real world value. That's what I charge my clients. And then also a grand prize drawing, a 90-minute deep chakra healing. And basically what I do in this healing is I look at each one of your chakras, give you some communication, tell you what I see. There's so much information in each chakra. If I do see a block, I'll help you release those blocks. And, a lot of people that go through the 90-minute deep chakra healing with me, I consider your chakras like windows between the physical realm and the spiritual realm, right? So when you clear the windows, right, people just say stuff like, oh my gosh, I don't know why, but I feel more clear. I just feel more psychic even. I just feel more in tune. My intuition just feels like it's going through the roof. All right, so that's the value of this 90-minute deep chakra healing. Okay, so how many of you would be interested in either a psychic reading or 90-minute deep chakra healing, right? Just go and type in the word reading if you're interested in that. All right, so and y'all are saying reading, yes to psychic healing, awesome, great. So one thing about this, and again, this is my incentive to get you guys to show up each day, right? Be present, learn all you can, is you must be present on day 5 to win. And then each day, just so that I know that you have been attending each day, be sure to comment live on the comment on the live or the replay broadcast. And then what you're going to comment is either hashtag day 1 done. Today, you'll be commenting hashtag day 2 done. So go ahead and type that in now. All right, so I see the hashtag day 2 done. And then complete all 5 hashtags and be automatically entered for a chance to win, okay? And last time I tried to do the drawing live, it didn't go so well, but what we'll do, my assistant and I we'll get all the hashtags and then we'll film. I'm gonna record and there'll be like the spinning wheel, it's all random. And then what we'll do is we'll reach out to you. Either IM you or email you and get you a link to sign up for the reading, okay? All right, so that's just the quick review there. Let me stop share here. And let me get back to the Facebook because I couldn't see the Facebook while I was in the PowerPoint. So a lot of you are saying day 2 done, day 2 done. Awesome. Okay. All right. Awesome. Great. So where are my bullet points? And let me see the, okay. I'm getting used to it, you guys. Like I said, this is my first time broadcasting to both Facebook and Zoom at the same time. So I'm starting to get used to it. It's tricky, like where are all the windows and all that. So thank you for bearing with me. Now, I want to get into the lecture now for today. And like I said, I'll try to go for about an hour. And then at the end, after the hour, the lecture will be officially done. If you have to go, you're welcome to go. But if you still had questions, you wanted to ask me anything, I'm going to stick around for a Q&A. And I'll stick around for about 20, 30 minutes just to get all the questions answered as much as possible, okay? All right, so I want to talk about now one of the misconceptions that I see many awakening psychics go through, right? And it's a trap, right, that I don't want you to fall into. All right, so as I'm sharing this misconception and just going over the concept of it all, just kind of check in with yourself as I'm lecturing here. Like what resonates with you? Where can you relate, right? So what I find is that there are many people who are feeling really disconnected from their gifts, right? And for many of you, just even based on the comments that I'm seeing with you, like you're already having psychic experiences, right? And you wouldn't be having a higher calling if you didn't already have something going on, okay? Now, the issue is, especially if you were like me, where I was very psychic as a child, right? But the older I got, life happened. I tried to block them. I tried to shut them off, right? I didn't want people thinking I was crazy. But the older I got, right, it was like, I need to figure this out because I kept getting the 333s. Lights would turn off for me. Street lights would turn off for me out of nowhere. I thought I was getting messages and, I didn't want people thinking I was going crazy, but at the same time, it was driving me crazy, right? So, so when it comes to when people try to turn their gifts back on, right? And let me know if you can relate to this. You're trying to make your gifts work, but it seems like they're just not working as well as they could. Some of you already commented already. It's like, I could feel the energy, but I can't see it. Or maybe your experiences are just so random, right? Going to type in random, like you think of someone and then 5 minutes later they text you and you're like, well, that's just so random. Like, how does that happen, right? And so what people end up doing is the harder that they try, right? Because what they're doing is they're trying really hard to make their gifts work, that the harder that they try, the more that their gifts don't work. Now, here's where the misconception comes in, you guys, is that trying hard to get your gifts to work actually will make your gifts not work. Okay, let me say that again. When the harder you're trying to make your gifts work, then really the less your gifts will work. Okay, so the harder you try, the less your gifts will work. All right, so let that sink in for a moment and let that sink in for where that's been true for you. Like you were trying, you put some effort into it. Like for me, like when I downloaded this message from this woman's father, right? And I told the story in the pre-training. I tried to make it happen again, right? I'm like, how did that happen? I saw like this glow of light and I tried to make the glow of light come back, but I couldn't make it happen. And so there I was just straining, trying to make it happen. But the more that I was trying to strain and make it happen, it just felt like I was more disconnected from my gifts. Okay. So let me know if you can relate to that. Like sometimes you feel even more disconnected from your gifts the more you try, right? And so Melissa's saying, yes, things come to me better when I'm not trying. Okay. I see a bunch of you saying random. All right. Awesome. Now, here's the deal, you guys. We're taught, all right? We're taught, but you just got to keep trying, right? Never give up. How many of you have gotten that, heard that before, right? Never give up, right? And, try harder. You never want to give up. The harder you try, right? Then eventually it'll come to you. Or you might have heard something like, you won't achieve anything unless you work hard. Okay. Well, here's the deal. Here's the downfall with that, right? Here, society is saying, or your parents or family or your upbringing, they're saying, try hard, you got to work hard. But here we're saying the harder you try, the more disconnected you are from your gifts. Okay. Now, if this is you, right? And a lot of you are saying yes, more, sometimes more disconnected. Yep. Many of you are saying. So this is you again. I could totally relate because that was all part of my journey as well. Okay. And for me, I remember it just got to the point where I was just trying so hard that I was like, you know what? Forget it. Right. Literally, I was so frustrated. I was like, forget it. Whatever. It's not working. All right. So how many of you can relate to that? Like you just almost got to the point, like, forget it. Like I can't make it work anymore. Right. And yet you still get all the 333s in spite of all that, right? All the random stuff. And Amber does the raising hand thing, right? So here's the thing. When I finally got to the point where I was like, forget it, I'm going to give up, right? It wasn't until I was close to saying, forget about it, that point, like a teacher appeared for me out of nowhere, literally out of nowhere, right? And so, that saying, when the student's ready, the teacher will appear. Well, apparently when I finally learned to just let it go, right? Say, forget about it, stop trying so hard. That's when the teacher appeared for me. Okay. So it's funny how stuff like that happens, right? And all the synchronicities, like I mentioned earlier. Well, the teacher showing up, that's a story for another day. The whole point, you guys, is that how many of you have been trying to make your gifts happen? Okay, you're trying to make them happen, as opposed to like when you get the 333s, they come out of nowhere, right? That's when you're not trying to make them happen. Okay. And how many of you were taught to work really hard, right? Or you got to try harder, you got to try harder. Or how many of you were even programmed, right? That if you're not trying hard enough, then you will fail. You are a failure. Right? So many of you are typing the word, yep, harder, yep, put the time in, okay? And the truth is, so many awakening psychics out there, they're trying really hard to make their gifts work. But if trying harder were the way to go about it, then we'd have a world of super psychics by now, right? If all it took were to just simply try harder. Okay. All right. So Vicky's saying sort of, but not really, just feel like I'm doing something wrong. Okay. Yeah. And that's all part of the process too, right? You're trying something, but it doesn't seem to be working. Okay. So what I want to introduce to you tonight is a new way. Okay. So what if you didn't have to try so hard to tap into your gifts? How many people would be interested in that? Right? Where tapping into your gifts could actually be easy, right? Go ahead and type in the word easy or ease if you'd be interested in that, to where you could activate your psychic third eye to see energy, where it would be almost like flipping on a light switch on and off. Okay, talking about easy, right? So many of you are saying easy, easy, yes. All right, awesome. So that leads me to tonight's topic, okay? The 3 hidden energies blocking your gifts now. Now, before we get into the 3 hidden energies, I want to give you an analogy real quick. And as you could tell, I like to tell a lot of stories, give analogies. That's like my teaching style. And I find that when you could tell stories or analogies in it, the information sinks deeper. So hopefully y'all don't mind me being a storyteller here time to time, or an analogy sharer time to time. This analogy that I want to share with you now is the analogy of a dirty window. Okay. So I have a window behind me, right? And if it were more bright out, you could see outside, right? It's nighttime here now on the West Coast. But imagine that the window behind me was really dirty, right? It's like dusty, dirty. And if you were to try to see out the window when it's dirty like that, right? It'd be hard to see. Does that make sense? Like logically, it's like, oh, it's hard to see. And if you were to try to see out a dirty window, right, you'd be like, oh, is that a tree out there? Like your eyes are straining. You're looking, like trying to find a clear spot or someplace where it's not as dirty, right? And you're like, is that a tree? Are those birds out there? What color is the sky? And here I am telling this analogy, and you're like, well, why are you straining so hard? Why are you trying so hard? What if you were to just clean the window, right? Spray some glass cleaner on there. And then when you do, you clean the window. And then next thing you know, it's like, whoa, look, there is a tree out there. Look, there's bluebirds or a hummingbird flapping its wings about. All right, I'll look at all the spring flowers, the rainbow colors, right? The light blue sky. So there you were. You clean the window. And now you don't have to try so hard, do you? In fact, you're not trying at all. You're just looking. Does this make sense? Right? When the window is clear, it's easy to see through. Okay. Well, it turns out when you clean the window and you can see more clearly, tapping into your psychic gifts and seeing through your psychic third eye especially is actually the exact same thing. So consider, and some of you are like, oh, I'm having a hard time seeing the energy. I'm having a hard time with this, or I can't see very clearly with my third eye yet. Well, consider that what's going on, at least for the moment, is that your third eye or your, access to your gifts is just like that dirty window. Okay. So let that sink in for a moment. If you were trying hard or like, oh, I think I'm doing something wrong, or, all of those things that come with trying to tap into your gifts, consider that there's just like dirt, like there's some foreign energies blocking your gifts now. Okay. And as you let that sink in, for how many of you, like, it's starting to make sense now, right? It's like, oh, that's why I can't see clearly. Because, yeah, there's been some blocks in my space. Okay. So let's talk about now, what are these blocks exactly, right? Because there's three main ones, three hidden energy blocks now. All right, so I invite you now to just close your eyes for a moment. And as I lecture, right, just kind of check in, tune in with your body. And if you do happen to see any visions that pop up, that's fine. If not, that's fine too. And just remember to breathe, and you can ground and fill in with a gold sun as needed. Now, the first hidden energy, right, that's blocking your gifts now, that's causing you to strain or try too hard, is when you have energy in your space that's not yours. Okay, I just call it, for short, I'm just going to say it's not your energy. So we talked about this a little bit yesterday, when, especially if you're an empath or you're highly sensitive, it's easy for other people's energies to get in your space. That's one of the challenges of being an empath, is that you absorb a lot of other people's energies. Well, the problem with that is that, let's say like a car, right? And say your car is supposed to have super unleaded gasoline. Well, if you put diesel in your super unleaded car, what's going to happen? Well, that car will break down, won't it? Right? So when you have these foreign energies in your space, it's this kind of the same thing. And this is what will cause a block for you. It pulls away from your gifts for when your gifts could be more tapped into. And even further, you want to be in a higher vibrational space, a higher vibrational state, being nice and grounded, right? So if you have other people's energies in your space weighing you down, and, you know, when you were letting go of the energy from the grounding meditation earlier, right? When you can let that go, then instantly that helps you to be in that higher vibrational state. Okay, so that's the first one, not your energy. So with your eyes closed and nice and grounded, just go ahead and take a moment, scan your space for anything that feels like it's not your energy, or you sense it's not your energy. And it could show up, manifest as like an ache, a headache, a pain, or irritation. And just consider that those things are not your energy, and just release and let them go. And just like that analogy of using a brick, you could just put some weight to it and let it go. Imagine it falling away from your body. And Justin's asking, how do you scan? Well, just close your eyes and just let your intuition scan your body now. And essentially, you're just checking for any pain or discomfort. Those are usually some clues. Those are usually the clues that whatever is causing that is not your energy. You know, my client from earlier, she's like, yeah, other people's energies get in my space. I get really super irritated when that happens. Of course, because it's not your energy. Just like I said, it's like diesel in a super unleaded car. All right, so when you let go of that and just release and let go of whatever you can, go ahead and fill in with a gold sun real quick. So that's number one. So the first hidden energy block is the not your energy. Okay. So number two hidden energy is when energy is not in present time. Said another way, it's energy from the past, or maybe some energy stuck out in the future. especially though, when you have energy stuck from the past. Now, case in point, like if you had some scary spirit guide that came to you when you were 4 years old and you didn't understand that, that's an example of energy from the past. I had to let my dog in real quick. So that's an example of energy stuck from the past. So if you have a picture like, oh, spirit guides are scary, and it's this old 4-year-old picture, right, from when you were 4 years old, then that not in present time energy can be a block to your gifts as well. Now, this might be a harder one to let go of, okay, but just go ahead and take a moment to scan if anything resonates with you from what I said. Like maybe you had some scary experience yourself, or maybe you were trying and you just couldn't get it. And it just had you feel stuck a little bit when it comes to accessing your gifts. And if you are able to release it and let it go, then allow yourself to release that energy now. And if you're not, that's okay too. At least acknowledging it, like, oh, okay, that was from my past or not in present time. And when you're stuck in the past and your attention is not in the present, then it's actually hard to read when you're not present. And that becomes a block. All right. So that's number 2. Okay. So number 1 was not your energy is the first hidden energy block. Number 2 is when energy is not in present time. That could be a block. Now, number 3, and I know I'm going kind of quickly through this, but this is just, high level overview. The third energy is simply energy not in motion. Or said another way, it's just stuck energies. Now, energy is either in movement or it's stored energy. So if you want to get into the physics of it, right? In the psychic world, in the energy world, energy is either in movement or it's not. And so when you have stuck energies in your space, and it could be other people's energies or it could be from the past, just the nature of it is stuck. Now, when you have stuck energies like this, literally, like when I gave my reading or my client a reading earlier, I looked at her crown chakra in particular, and I just saw there's all this other like darker gray energy in her crown chakra. I was like, whoa, that's definitely not your energy. It looks like a stuck energy. It's not moving. It's not in movement. And there she was. She felt stuck in her life. Well, when you feel stuck in your life, you could more than likely see and scan and perhaps get the sense of a matching stuck energy in your own space, in your own body. Or it could even be a stuck thought. If you've ever had repeating thoughts that repeat over and over and over again, that's an example of a stuck energy. So all told, when you have energies that are not your energy, not in present time, and they're stuck energies, not in movement, all of these create for that dirty window. Okay. So just kind of breathe into that for a moment. Just notice where that rings true for you. That when you can release and let these go. Just like a dirty window that you could clean when you could release and let these go. Then tapping into your gifts just becomes that much easier. All right, so just notice what you notice. And again, this is only day 2 of the challenge. Don't try to make this perfect, okay? Because again, this is all part of psychic development. It's sometimes it's less about trying to be more psychic. It's about releasing and letting go of all the effort, the judgment, the doubt, second guessing, all of that. And all of that could create for a dirty window situation as well. So with that, go ahead and create one more gold sun, fill yourself in. All right, and then when you're all filled up, you could open your eyes and come on out of the trance, the meditation here. All right, so just to review, the 3 kinds of energies, 3 hidden energies blocking your gifts now are when energies get in your space that are not yours, all right, not in present time, and then just not in movement. They're stuck, they're literally stuck. You know, I'm gonna grab one of my crystals here. And sometimes when I do a reading, literally what I'll see is like, if I see a block in someone's third eye, like literally there's like, I don't know, that's not a good color. I'll use this crystal, like it's like there's a block right in front of their third eye. Okay, so it's a stuck energy. It's not a movement. It's not even their energy. So I'd love to get your ahas, like what came up for you? What did you notice for yourself? And what did you notice about the 3 hidden energies? Okay, so Vicky is already saying I had never thought about my stuck thoughts. Okay, great. Cindy's saying stuck. Okay, yeah, these are all like, you don't realize that these are the things that could cause you to be stuck in the first place, right? Monique says resistance. That's yet another thing that could cause you blocks, right? So imagine when you could release all the resistance energy out of your space. Here's the deal, you guys. Your gifts are right there. Okay? Just imagine that if your gifts are right there, they're just piled on top with all this energy, this foreign energy, right? So imagine if you could release all that, release that, release that. And you notice it's like layers of an onion, right? Your gifts are right there waiting to be revealed. Does that make sense? Okay. So what I really want to impress upon you guys today is it's not about trying harder to make yourself more psychic. You're already having psychic experiences. You're already getting 3 threes, dreams, premonitions, all of that, right? But when you get to the point of trying so hard, consider it's not that you need to try harder. It's that what if you could release and let go even more? How would that be? Right? How would it be to like heal yourself so you don't have to try hard to access your gifts? How cool would that be? Okay. And let me catch up on some comments here. Me neither, never thought of and dealt with that. Okay. I could sense things, but I have a hard time releasing. Okay. It really depletes me. So I'm trying to catch up on past comments here. Okay. Some of you are saying I'm having a hard time seeing the visuals. Okay. So same thing, you guys. If you're having a hard time seeing the visuals, right? This is exactly my point of tonight. Consider that if you're having a hard time visualizing that there's stuff on top. Okay. So part of why this is a 5-day challenge and part of why I have an 8-week program is because, yeah, there's probably layers and layers and layers of stuff we have to work through. Okay. However, like I said, you all even said it, you're getting random experiences already. So it's not like your gifts are not there, right? But if you had even more tools to help you release and let go so that you can tap into your third eye more, so that you can then help people with the insights and help heal yourself even more deeply. Right? What I really want to leave you with tonight, if you get anything out of tonight, right? It's that you don't need to be trying so hard. Okay. All right, so let me just catch up on some comments here on Zoom. A lot of you were saying this would be amazing. I'm so ready. It feels like it won't. It just feels like it won't happen. Um, okay, some of you are remarking on my stones. Yep. Jacqueline said, "I want to be like a psychic Home Depot with my toolbox." LOL. Amber says, "My throat chakra is just aching. Maybe I need a good cry after today's news." Um, okay, yeah, and a lot of the blocks, like when people have sore throats, just consider that there's a lot of energy that's not yours, not in present time, that are stuck energies in your throat as well. Okay, so it's not just in your chakras, like the client that I worked with as well. A lot of that stuff that was in her space wasn't hers, right? So anyway, David is saying, excited to work through my blocks. Okay, awesome. Now, can you guys begin? Okay, we're at the hour here, so I'm going to start wrapping up here. But before I wrap up, can you guys get the sense now that when you're trying to do any kind of energy work, right? If you're not relaxed, if you're just trying too hard, right? Let alone trying to see through your psychic third eye, and then you have all these layers on top of that, like these foreign energies on top, then trying to see through your psychic third eye would be near impossible, wouldn't it? Right? So, what I want to leave you with, the last thing I want to leave you with for tonight is that is what the 8-week training, the third eye mastery program is all about, to help you clear all that, right? So then tapping into your gifts is easy. And now you could begin to sense that that's why I use that analogy of a light switch, right? Because when you're clear, then tapping into your gifts is easy, right? The hard part though is like getting clear, right? Because that's why I call it the hidden energy blocks, because they're hidden from your views. Sometimes you don't know that they're there. You don't know until you start exploring it in this way, right? And so how many of you would be interested in just clearing, right? Getting the healing so that you can access your gifts with more ease. Wouldn't that be amazing? Okay. And I'm telling you guys, it's not hard. Maybe you just need a little more tools. Vicky's saying, yes, spring cleaning. Interested for sure, says Stacy. All right. Clearing, yes, very interested. All right. So you guys are getting it. Okay. Maybe you don't have the tools yet or the know-how yet to clear your gifts, right? But that's what the follow-up training is. But at least now you understand why you're blocked and why you shouldn't be trying harder to access your gifts. Okay. All right. Well, great job, you guys, following along, and great job like meditating with me. You notice, like, I want to say 30–40% of tonight was just meditation. Okay. And so that's yet another part of my teaching style. And you notice when you can meditate, like you get everything a little bit more deeply. Okay. Sean is saying, that's what I struggle with, envisioning, then drop down the grounding cord. Okay. So yeah, and yes, I might be overthinking it, says Shauna. Yes, that's all part of it as well. And we're going to address the overthinking piece. Today was like more about the trying hard piece. We're going to talk about the thinking piece and how that could be a block to your gifts. So for tomorrow, we're done for today, okay? And we're going to get into the Q&A. Definitely stay tuned for tomorrow, because day 3, we're going to be talking about psychic protection and how to prevent being invaded by foreign energies. Right. So it's one thing to get clear, which is what we talked about today, but then it's another thing on how to stay clear. Right. So it's one thing to get clear, but it's another thing on how to stay clear. And that's where psychic boundaries and psychic protection is super important. So that when you do start reading people, right, here you cleared your third eye, but you don't want something like getting back on it, clouding it back up again, right? All right. So Vicky says, oh yeah, psychic protection is huge. Okay. All right. So definitely stay tuned for tomorrow. All right. And if you haven't already, go ahead and type in #day2done. And that's all for today. That's all the main content for today, you guys. Okay. So now for those of you that want to stick around, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about tonight, your psychic awakening journey. While you have me live, you guys ask away, right? Because I know, like you said, or like many of you said, you don't have anyone to turn to. So take advantage now. All right. And by the way, give me some feedback. How was today? Did everything make sense? Did you enjoy the learning? Give me some feedback. I'd love to just know that as well as your questions. Okay. All right. Jacqueline said it was a pleasure training with you all. Much love and light. I'll see you lovelies tomorrow. Thank you, Joe. Loved it. Okay. Thank you for the feedback. I appreciate that. Vicky says, thank you for the new things I never was aware of. Awesome. Amber, absolutely grateful for this. See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. Good night, everyone. Okay, see a new question coming in. We'll get to that in a second. Prue on Facebook says, it was awesome. Thanks a lot. I'm much more excited for the coming days. Great. I'm so glad. Jess, today was so informative for me, and knowing that the comment moved here. Hold on. What I'm going through is the process. Awesome. Okay. All right. So let's get to some questions here. Okay. It's 7:08 on my clock. So we'll go for about 20, 30 minutes here, you guys. I'll try to answer as many questions as I can. All right. So Monique. Joe, my question is, how did you begin after finding out all is an illusion? That's where I got stuck. Yeah. You know what? That's a great question. It's such a deep spiritual question. And I could tell you in my own spiritual awakening journey, let alone my psychic awakening journey, right? When my gifts started opening up more and I could see the energy of things, you notice that I call it a game, and a lot of my teachers call it a game, a spiritual game of the universe. And part of the illusion, right, is that when you really start to awaken to this game of that's the universe, that the universe is playing, you realize it's just all energy, right? And stuff that I mentioned already. It's either your energy, not your energy. It's in present time. It's not. It's in motion. It's in not. Right? When you start to realize that it's all just energy, and that's what I'm talking about, it being a game. Well, energy can be manipulated in a way, and maybe manipulated as like a negative connotation of the word, but you could play with energy, right? Intention is an energy, for an example. You can intend for something to happen. And then when it happens, like, whoa, look at the energy of all that. Okay. So yes, as much as it's an illusion, it doesn't mean that you're powerless. And, you know, and this might be another heavy word too, right? But we don't want to be victims to the energy of it all. Right? What if you could come from a more empowered place, right? With your intentions, like, oh yes, and so it is, and so it shall be. Okay. Even when I put this challenge together, yeah, I was nervous, right? But I'm like, you know, I'm going to have a great time. I'm going to have fun teaching this. And I'm going to make sure that all my students enjoy what they learn and get a lot out of this, right? So while I was creating that, that was an illusion, right? But you could play with the illusion of it all and have it be reality too. Okay. So that's what I mean by the game. It's all just energy. So hopefully that makes sense, Monique. And, you know, the more you meditate on this, on that concept of like the game of the energy of it all, right? Then that's where it all comes into play. Okay. Let me switch to Facebook, see if the question's there, and then I'll switch back and forth here. Melissa, spirits let me know when they're around by breathing in my ear, calling my name or saying hi. When I address them, I get nothing. How come? Yeah, you know, spirit has a funny way of working, okay? And in, I showed you guys that graphic of like reading mastery, healing mastery, spirit guide communications mastery. In spirit guide communications mastery, consider that there's a language of spirit. And when it comes to this language of spirit, you might hear something, it might tap into via your higher knowing, or you might see the energy, right? And some people will feel like spirit brushing their hair or something, like that's yet another way. Okay. Now, when it comes to this language of spirit, you have to train yourself in a way to be adept at the hearing, the seeing, and the knowing. Okay, there's like all three. So that's what's going on your end, right? As the psychic. Now realize that there are some spirit, just depending on the spirit guide, the dead person, like whoever being, I'll just say being without a body. Not all of them are used to speaking, right? Some spirits are able to talk. Some are more adept at showing you pictures. Other beings are more tapping into your higher knowing. Some beings, more capable beings, are adept at all three. Right. So what I want to invite you to look at is that if you're getting nothing, as you put it, Melissa, consider that there are other ways to communicate with spirit. And the fact that they're breathing in your ear or saying hi, right? Like, how did you get the hi? Did you hear it? Did it come from your higher knowing? Was it a combination of the two, hearing and knowing? All right. And, spirit wants to communicate with you. Okay. Because a lot of times I find spirit has a message, but they can't deliver it on their own because they don't have a body of their own. All right. So it takes practice. And that's where that third level of my training, spirit guide, spirit communications mastery. That's why I put the word communications in there, because it is tricky at first. Okay. But you get used to it. Like it's like learning a new language. Okay, so great question. Thomas Seen asked, I missed the first half. Can I cast a replay? Yes, I'm going to be posting the replay on YouTube. I'm going to let the video render and then I'm going to upload it to YouTube. The replay will also be available immediately after in Facebook as well. Okay. All right, so let me go to Zoom, see what question came in here. Oh, these are just past comments. Made so much sense. Thanks, really enjoyed it. Good stuff. What time tomorrow? Same time tomorrow. So 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. And he says, this is amazing. I'm grateful. Awesome. Okay, so no more questions on Zoom. Let me just check back on Facebook. Okay, Melissa said hearing it. Okay, so yeah, Melissa, part of it could be that maybe you could also develop your psychic third eye too, because, I find that when spirit or even just getting psychic messages in general, you might just hear one word, right? Or you might get a symbol. And say, for example, like you get a peace symbol, right? That just shows up in your mind's eye. It shows up in your clairvoyant third eye there. And it's like, oh, that's a silver peace symbol. And like it's surrounded by lots of colors, right? You know how they say a picture paints 1,000 words? Well, you might just hear that one word, or you might just get that one symbol or that one thought that comes to mind, but it could convey like a whole paragraph of information. Okay. So just be open to that as well. That's all part of the language of spirit, is that you might just get one thing, but the energy of it is telling you much more. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay. All right. Heather is saying, is there a way to understand what the numbers mean, or am I too ahead of myself? Yeah, great question. We're actually going to cover this a little bit on day 4, but let me go ahead and answer your question now since you asked. When you get, say, a 333, or in my case, growing up, streetlights used to turn off for me all the time, right? And the whole time I would tune in, I'm like, is that my grandmother? Right? Come to find out years later, right? When I finally did, finally learn how to control my gifts, right? I went to the school, the training, and it's like, okay, yeah, that's my grandmother. And then I asked, I go, so what's your message, Grandma? And she goes, oh, I just wanted to let you know I've been watching over you. And then from that point forward, like the streetlights don't turn off for me anymore. Why? Because I finally got the message. Now, the reason why I'm sharing this is because, and the lesson learned here is that for years, I was like, is that my grandmother? Is my grandmother watching over me? Is that my grandmother? And I kept second guessing it. So to answer your question, how do you understand the meaning of the numbers? Always go with the first thing that comes to you. So if you get a 333, right, and you get this sense that it means, oh, I'm on the right path, always go with that first thing that comes to you, because that's your intuition talking, that's your higher knowing coming into play. And it's not like you were trying to make it up when it came up, right? It's not like I was trying to make up, like, oh, that's my grandma. Like, no, it just kind of came to me. It's like when you have deja vu, or like you have that idea that comes out of nowhere, right? That's the same thing. That's when you know the true meaning of it. And so it takes practice, you guys. It takes practice because we're so used to second guessing it. It's like, whatever, right? You brush it off. What I invite you guys to do from now on is stop brushing those things off. Like, take a moment. It's like, oh, that's my grandmother. Oh, that's, I'm on the right path. Or, oh, my spirit guide is watching over me, my guardian angel. Okay. Always go with the first thing. Shauna is asking, oh, great question, by the way. Great question, Heather. So Shauna is now asking, will the rest of the classes be 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern? Yes, every single night will be same time each night. Okay, let me go to in Zoom. So Natasha, I see letters in the clouds, but I can't make out words. Okay. Yeah. So, first of all, go with what you can get. Okay. And then one of the things I teach in my more advanced training is that a lot of times we want these to be more, right? It's like, well, I see the letters, but I should see a word. What if it is the case that the universe is just showing you the letters? So if that's the case, when you do get the letters, just like I mentioned moments ago, always go the first thing that comes to you. It's like, oh, I see the letter C, I see the letter B, or I see the letter L. Oh, the letter L reminds me of the word love. Go with that first thing. Okay. That's hard, you guys, going with the first thing, because you're like, well, does it make sense? I'm trying to understand the meaning of it. But when you were getting the 333s in the first place, were you thinking about it in the first place? Like, no. Okay. So that's part of the practice, you guys. You just have to learn how to stop second guessing it all and stop wanting it to be more than what it is, right? Just another quick story. I've had many students in the past who are like, Joe, I don't see anything. I just see black. Right. I go, okay. So what else do you see? Well, I see black, but in the corner there's a little pink. I go, so you do see something? They're like, no, I don't see anything. I go, but you just told me you saw a little black and you saw a little pink. And they're like, oh, I did see something. Right. So that's what I mean. We have these expectations. We should be seeing it more clearly, but maybe all you are supposed to be seeing is the black and a little bit of pink. And to take that story a little further, like when I ask, okay, so what is the first impression you get? Like, what's the first thing that comes to you from the black and the pink? And the person will say, well, the way the pink is showing up in the corner, it looks like the black is overshadowing it. It looks like it doesn't want the pink to shine. So I'm getting it has to do with not being able to shine my own light as clearly as I want to. How's that for a message, right? You see the black, you see a little pink, the meaning you get of it, it's like, oh, I'm not allowed to show, there's some energy out there that's not letting me shine my light as brightly as I want. Like, whoa, what a great reading. Okay. All right. So point being, Natasha, just kind of go with it, right? Don't worry if you can't make out the words, just kind of go with what you do get. Okay. Vicky says, if you go on Pinterest, you could look up angel numbers and just the meaning of numbers to start. Okay. Yeah, I do that too. Sometimes I'll just go with it to start. But even when you're reading all of that, like, there's like these dream dictionaries online and the angel numbers, kind of take it all with a grain of salt too. Like you're going to read it, but you still have to check in with yourself. Like what resonates with me? How much of that really rings true for me? Okay. All right. So great comments here and questions. Heather saying, I've seen a full body apparition once in my house too, but only once. Yeah, you know, a friend of mine, when she grew up, she saw a apparition as well of her uncle. Crazy thing is she had never met her uncle. And so when this being showed up at like the foot of her bed, it freaked her out. And she was only a teenager and she's like, oh my God, right? And then, you know, she screamed, her parents came in, and then she goes, I saw this person, it looked like this man, and she described the man, right? That, and it turns out it's like you just described your uncle, right? It's this her uncle who she had never met before, right? So talking about stuck pictures from the past, right? Because energy could be in the past. Ever since that moment, right? She got so freaked out, she got so scared. She goes, I don't want to experience that again. And from that point forward, she had a really hard time seeing spirit again. Okay. So this is what I mean, you guys. It's like you're having these experiences, you've had these experiences, but because of these blocks, these energies that are piled on top, that's what prevents you from accessing your gifts. But just know your gifts are right there. Okay. You just have to have faith in that. Okay. Let's see. Okay, Daniel just shared schizophrenia's voices, PTSD, anxiety, and depression. Okay. Yeah, you know, one of my teachers, her brother had schizophrenia. Um, and, you know, when we looked at the energy of her brother, turns out a lot of his channels, his chakras were like really open, right? And, you know, I'm not saying this is the case for everyone, but when we looked at her brother in particular, like he had a hard time closing his chakras, right? So if you can imagine all this energy is coming his way and he couldn't close his chakras down, you know, ideally you want your chakras to be flexible, to open, close, right? That's the nature of chakras, to let energy in or out as needed. They're like a camera lens, if you want to picture it that way. But when they're stuck open like that, stuck open, then yeah, that's where I find, like, if you're seeing voices or seeing spirit all the time, or other people's energies get in your space, you know, that's the nature of having really open channels. Okay. So, you know, there's the diagnosis of schizophrenia, right? Which, you know, I'm not a medical professional and don't quote me on any of that. But then there's also the energy side of things that one can look at, right? How are your energy channels? How are your chakras? Are they really open or not? Okay. All right. Let's see. Go back to Zoom here. Okay, Delphine is saying, I get insecure when spirit interacts with me because I don't know how far they can see into me. So then I become self-conscious. How much does spirit see inside of you? I get that the judgment is subjective. Also, I can tune into them with my mind, and then they must be able to tune into me. In day-to-day life, there is a difference between words and thoughts, but it doesn't seem to exist the same way there. Who asked the question? Delphine. You know what? So much wisdom in what you just said and what you shared, Delphine. Okay. First of all, let me just say, it's funny because a lot of my friends are psychic, and I just have a lot of acquaintances and a community of psychics and healers. And the funny thing is that you can't hide from another psychic. Right? And so since you can't hide, the wisdom here is you may as well just be yourself. Okay. So I treat the world of spirit the same way. Spirit sees all. We're not separate from spirit. So if we're not separate from spirit, what is there to really hide if they could see it all anyway? Right. And yes, there's like the judgment or feeling judged about it all. It's like, oh, they're going to see all my stuff. Right. But just consider that spirit, right? Who are they to judge? You know, spirit, what I've learned is that spirit are just like people. They have their own faults too. Okay, so they're not perfect. So the wisdom here is that there's a concept of seniority that I teach in my book and in my other trainings. That's what I learned when I was being trained is that part of being senior as a spirit, right, is that you just really own who you are, right? Nothing to hide. Okay. So yeah, of course you're going to feel self-conscious, right? Because that's just the nature of being human. Of course you're going to feel judged. But when I talked about like those stuck energies, energies not in present time, right? Not your energy. You could take a look. Well, where did the judgment come from? Where did the fear of or the self-conscious energy come from? And just consider that it's one of those three classes of energies, right? And when you can clear the judgment energy out of your space, when you could clear that, don't you think that you could connect to spirit more in a more deep way, right? In a more profound way beyond all the judgment? You know, one thing about spirit is they have so much to share, right? So if we have any fear of spirit, then you're going to miss out on what they have to share. Now, not all spirit is good, right? There's some spirit that are lower vibration, right? But at the same time, you don't have to give them your energy and attention anyway. Okay. There's something else you said. Yeah, I love what you just said. In day-to-day life, there's a difference between words and thoughts, but it doesn't seem to exist the same way there. You know, one thing I like to share about the world of spirit is that spirit has no speed limit. What I mean by that is that we're in the world of space and time, right? So we have to respect space and time. There's a speed limit here. Whereas when you go to the world of spirit, they don't have space and time confines like we do. They're not in a body, right? They're not rotating around the sun. And the reason why there's time on this planet is because we're rotating around the sun. The earth is rotating, right, for one day and all of that. Moon rotates around the earth. So that creates for time. But when you're outside of this space and time realm, what is there? Right? So yeah, it's true. It doesn't exist the same there. Not at all. Okay. So that's the gift of being a psychic, though, is that being a psychic means you could be in this realm, or you could also take a look at the other realms, right? So it's fun. It should be fun. Working with spirit is fun. Okay. Let me go back to Facebook real quick. So Kathy's, so having chakra closed is not such a bad thing. I've been programmed to think they have to be open all the time. And if they were closed, that's a bad thing. Wow, thanks for the different perspective. Yeah. No, you want your chakras to be flexible to open and close. Okay. Say, for example, your first chakra, if your first chakra is blasted open all the time, well, first chakra is all about survival energy, right? Well, if you're in a car about to get in a car accident, you step on the brakes, you slam on the brakes, right? Yeah, you want the energy to flow out of your first chakra. You want that to be open because that's survival. But when you're not in a car accident anymore, you don't want your first chakra to be blasted open. Like, no, allow it to relax down when you don't need it, right? Because you don't need to be in survival mode all the time either. All right. Okay, so let me go back to Zoom here. Okay, so Sally's asking a great question. Sometimes when I read oracle cards, I see messages in the pictures, but then read the meaning and it's completely different, yet also resonates. And I get confused so that they seem opposite. What do I believe at that point? What's the truth? Yeah. So when I read with cards, I don't read with cards very often, but when I do, I don't read tarot cards a lot because tarot cards just have a lot of energy and history to them anyway, right? I like to use the angel cards, and I like to use because they have a lot of pictures and imagery and colors and all that. And I use those angel answers cards, and it might say wisdom, it might say truth on the bottom, right? I ignore the word. I pull a card, and I just intuitively pull a card. And then what I do is I look at the picture, and then I just go with what calls to me. So if there's like I don't know, a picture of a dog on the card, right? I'll ignore everything else because that's not catching my attention. I'll look at the dog and I'll say, oh, what is it about the dog that's catching my attention? And then just like what I shared earlier, you go with the first thing. What's the first message that comes about the dog, right? And so you might be reading someone and you're sharing this, and it's like, oh, for some reason the dog is calling to me. And then the person you're reading will say something like, oh my God, when I was a kid, I had a dog and I had just thought about my dog the other night. I think it was trying to contact me. I totally made that up, right? But that's kind of the nature of it all, right? So ignore the words, right? Don't worry about like it seems opposite. Go with that first thing, like I mentioned earlier. Go the first thing that catches your eye, and go the first message that comes to you. Okay. All right. So great question. Vicky said oracle cards. I always get different messages. I stop reading the meanings. Yeah, I don't look at the meanings at all. The tarot card book that came with my deck, I'm like, just whatever. I don't need it. Okay. Okay. Sarah's asking or made a comment here. I was attacked in my sleep by a negative spirit before I began my spiritual journey. Why or what would have been? Yeah, that happens a lot, I find. I don't have an answer to why, only that it does happen. Um, one teacher told me one time, she says that when it comes to beings in spirit, yes, they're there. And yes, some of them could be intrusive and some of them could be negative, right? But the way she handles it, she comes from the perspective of, well, it's less about the being or that spirit, and it's more about what's going on in your own psychic world that the spirit came in the first place, right? So when it comes to dreams in particular, right? Dreams are happening up on the astral, right? So the question, if I were to use that question from my teacher, you could ask the question, what's going on in the astral that the spirit is visiting you in that way? Okay. All right. I know that's not the best answer, but when you really look into the deeper meaning of what my teacher was trying to say, right? Then you could start to look at yourself, and then the opportunity becomes, what can I heal in myself? What can I release and let go of such that it doesn't attract spirits like that anymore? Okay, so you see how that's a different way to look at it. And so this is what I mean by energy not in present time, stuck energies, energy not yours, right? So that's all opportunities for healing. Okay. All right, Daniel said, that's interesting. I love the paranormal. All right. Yeah, it is interesting. All of this is, to me, it's all fun, right? And like I said, I forgot who asked the question, or Monique, I think. Like when you start to see it's just the game of the universe, this energy game, right? After a while, for me, spirit is like, that's just energy. Okay. So I'm not afraid of spirit. Like spirit doesn't scare me in that way. Now, like when I was a kid, I was all freaked out. But when you just realize, oh, it's just energy, the labels that we give it, it's like, oh, it's a negative being, right? Well, watch the labels that you give. Okay. All right. Okay. Just a conversation in Zoom. Actually, let me flip back to Facebook here. Shauna, oh, great question. Could they be attracted to you just because you are more open? Yeah. Well, this might be a crazy analogy, but this is an analogy that came to me. Like always go the first thing, right? Let's say your window of your house is open, right? And there's a fly outside. Well, the fly won't come in unless maybe there's some food on the table. All right. The fly won't fly in through your window unless there's something to attract the fly. Whereas if there's no food on the table, the fly may come in, but it's like, there's nothing here, and it'll just fly on out. So when it comes to spirit's actually the same way. Spirit might see an open window, but if there's nothing interesting in there, then the spirit will just go to somewhere else. Okay. Whereas if there is something there, that could be like you're thinking about them. It could be you're stuck on a picture or some picture or something, and like you need a healing. Well, maybe that spirit guide is coming in to help you. All right. So anyway, I don't know if that's the best analogy, but that's the best analogy I could think of in the moment. Let's see. Natasha, I was dreaming of seeing one of my best friends, and right when he was about to speak up, I was awoken. They told me he committed suicide. Joe, I'm so inspired with your knowledge. Your teachings are calm and understanding. I want to go further with you as my teacher. Well, thank you. I'd love to have you as my student. So that's awesome. Um, yeah, so I've heard that often, right? People pass away and then they get the message. That was my story in my book when my grandmother passed away, right? It's like, oh, your grandma died. I'm like, how did I even know that? Okay. Um, but especially when you're close to people, related, right? Yeah, you already have kind of that connection anyway. So yeah, I'm not surprised it happens. Let's see, Jervy, I was told by a psychic my throat chakra is blocked. Can this be one of the reasons my third eye is blocked? Yeah, it could be. The fifth chakra is actually associated with your clairaudience, right? So clairaudience is like hearing spirit, telepathy. So it is one of your psychic gifts. Third eye is actually up here. And you might have some block in your psychic channel here that can be blocking your third eye as well, right? But it's not necessarily the same thing is what I'm trying to say. That's blocking. But yeah, just like I taught in today's lecture, your gifts are right there. It's just that there could be energy on top, right? And here we are talking about the energy game, right? When things can be stuck, well, things could be also loosened and released. Okay, so that's what you learn, later when you get more into the healing side of it all to help you clear your gifts in that way. All right, let's see. Okay, let me see if there's a question. Vicky said, wow, that was just deja vu moment, what you just said about the fly. Yeah, when I get these examples that come to me, like these analogies, like they just come to me. I'm like, okay, if it just came to me, there must be a reason. So I better just share it, right? And then here, Vicky's like, oh, I got deja vu about the fly. So I don't know how that works, right? But that's all part of this energy game of it all. Like, and this is what I'm telling you guys, go with the first thing. So I'm doing it by example, you guys. Just I went with the first thing that came to me and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna go with it. And then here Vicky's giving some validation of like, oh yeah, that was my deja vu moment. Oh my gosh. Right. It's funny how it works. I don't know how it works, but it just does. So part of the training, part of the wisdom tonight, you guys, always, always, always go with the first thing because you never know. It's not about being right. It's not about getting it right. It's not about trying. Was I even trying to make up that analogy about the fly? Like, no, it just came to me. And here I was thinking it was a silly analogy, right? So I was like judging myself a little bit, but even I'm like, oh, let me let go of that. Because here, like I said, Vicky gave me this great validation. And anyway, lesson learned, right? Lesson learned for everyone. Sally, yes, I heard about the same energies called shadow people. They only appear to those who have depressed or low energies because they feed off of it. My daughter used to see them. Yeah, so true. So true. So yeah, if you have like these darker energies in your space, is it more likely you'll attract other lower level, darker energies your way? Yeah, right? So when we work with a gold sun, because that's what I have you do, right? Ground, fill in with a gold sun. Well, gold is actually a higher vibration, right? It's a really high spiritual vibration. You see a lot of temples made out of gold, for example, right? Well, there's a reason why, because of the vibration of it. So when you can start to release and let go of these darker energies, and you fill in with more gold, well, the more gold you fill in with more often, guess what? You're going to start attracting different kinds of energies your way. Okay, so like the 8-week program is coming up. Imagine 8 weeks of just filling in with gold every single day. How will your life be? What will you start attracting at the end of the 8 weeks? Playing with gold all the time. You can't help, right? You can't help but attract new energies your way when you get clear, right? And then you start working with your own energy, especially when you start working at gold. Okay, that's part of the magic of the program. I don't really talk about it in that way, but that's what came up. And so, yeah, it makes sense, right? Okay. Let's see. Sally asks, do you think these energies also ruminate in certain places without having anything to do with the people there? Oh, yeah, totally. Um, in San Diego, there's this part of town called Old Town. It's like old as in like the 1600s old, right? Back when the Spanish settlers first came in, and that energy, there's so much spiritual activity there, right? And they have a bunch of haunted houses there, and a lot of the tourists go into the haunted houses, right? And stories go that the ghosts that are haunting there, they're like, oh, they were murdered at 3 p.m. as they're walking down the stairs. And then, so every day ever since 3 p.m. or every day since then, they hear footsteps at 3 p.m. walking down the stairs, right? So whether people are there or not, right? Apparently it still happens. But yeah, spirit can get attached to physical locations. That's, at least that's what I observed. Okay. So great question. Let's see, back to Facebook and a few more questions here, you guys. When I meditate and relax, my body twitches and sometimes laugh out loud. That turns to crying. What could be happening? I feel it's my body releasing. Is the movement on? Actually, no, it's not. Especially when you're first meditating, you become present to all the stuff that's been there all along, right? And we're so used to being there, we actually become numb to it all. But when you start meditating, you're no longer numb to it. It's like, oh my gosh, there it is. And so when you start releasing all that, then yeah, you could start shaking, releasing, crying. People start yawning. I remember doing healing work on this one girl. She started yawning, crying. And there was one point she goes, Joe, hold on. I have to use the bathroom real quick. She goes, I have to pee real quick. Talking about releasing, right? She's just like, she was in so much release, right? So yeah, when you do a lot of this energy work, especially meditating, relaxing, very true. Yeah, it all just, it's like your body has a mind of its own in a sense. But after a while, you release so much that you no longer get into the twitching and all that. Like all that stuff tends to go away after a while. And okay, let's see. Sally said, yes, I get yawns all the time during healing, grounding. I was yawning here yesterday. Yeah, if you see me before class as I'm setting up, like I'm yawning like crazy because like I had a busy day today. So I'm like, I got to get clear, right? Got to get in my teaching space. And as I was grounding and clearing myself, right? I was yawning like crazy. I was releasing my day like crazy. Okay. Daniel makes me want gold and I like smudging with sage. Okay. Yeah. I have one gold gem. I don't know where it is. Oh, here it goes. It doesn't look gold in the light right now, but it's like, it shimmers like gold. It's not real gold. And I have this Metatron thing. It's that gold as well. I don't know if you could see it. I just like having the color around me. It called to me, so I got it. All right, you guys. Wait, hold on. I see it. Oh, I didn't know there was a Q&A thing in Zoom. Okay, well, I will be looking at that. These were from earlier today. Oh, okay. I think my window is attractive because I felt for a while that I would do work with people who have passed. I think I need to learn how to safely navigate and feel comfortable before that happens. Yeah, that's where psychic protection comes in. I turn things off because I fear and then get stuck and can't turn it on again. Exactly what I was covering earlier, right? You get stuck and you try to turn it on again, right? Then it's hard. I met someone who I once helped stuck people who had passed, and she described some challenging spirits. Is this something you know about? Yeah, spirit, just like I mentioned, they're just energy, right? But I do find that some spirit they're on their own journey. All spirit is on their own journey, like we're on our own journey. And yes, some of them have had negative experiences, negative karma, all of that, right? So when you could begin to relate to them in that way, like they're there to learn their own lessons. Okay. Um, it's kind of like when we judge people, and you know the saying, don't judge a book by its cover, right? So when it comes to spirit, when you realize like, oh, they have their own lessons, their own karma, maybe they've had a tough upbringing like people, then you could start to see spirit, talking about the game of it all, you start to see spirit for who they really are. Now, there are some invasive spirits that you're like, get out of my space, right? But when you learn this whole concept of seniority, you learn that your body is your temple. And one of the things that I was taught and that I teach my students is that you want to learn how to create boundaries with spirit. So that's what I covered in level 3. It's a more advanced psychic protection around that. Okay. I didn't finish reading your comment. Is there a way to do this in a healthy way that goes in steps so you are prepared? Is this something that people do? Is it something that's typically addressed by our dimension? Yeah. So this is exactly what I cover in my level 3 training of spirit guide communications. Because yeah, all and everything you're saying and asking about is valid. And you don't want like your boundaries to be so open that anything gets in, right? That goes for other people's energies, but that also goes with the world of spirit. You don't want any old energy getting in. But when you treat your body and your aura like your body or temple, right? My body, my temple, then you allow what you want in, and you don't allow what you don't want in. Okay, you keep it all out. All right, so great question, and I hope that helps clear things up a little bit. All right, Heather says, thank you for sharing your wisdom, Joe. Okay. All right, so Daniel says, I need to know about psychic protection. So that's what we're covering tomorrow. So stay tuned for day 3 tomorrow. All right, you guys. Well, that's all I have for today. I see, wow, there's a bunch of people that stuck around. So for those of you that stuck around, it's great hanging out with you. Definitely come back tomorrow because we're going to talk about how to keep, I forgot what I titled the thing, how to keep energies from invading your space. Okay. And that's all about psychic protection, all of that good stuff. All right. And so again, thanks for hanging out. It was great having you here, and I will see you all tomorrow. Okay. All right. Bye for now.